Blood bank rejected humans' donation 17 times. Sample 18 made the alien nurse scream impossible. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. On the outskirts of New Horizons Station, the interspecies medical facility loomed like a pristine white monolith against the backdrop of swirling nebula gases. Inside, Nathan Brooks sat in the waiting area, his leg bouncing nervously as he eyed the various alien species around him. Some had scales, others tentacles, and a few seemed to be made almost entirely of light. Nathan was the only human in sight. Nathan had been stationed on New Horizon for nearly 2 years as part of Earth's diplomatic outreach program. The massive space station served as a neutral meeting ground for 17 different species, a hub of commerce, research, and cultural exchange. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community, having been discovered only 15 years prior when their radio signals were detected by a Glydian survey vessel. Since then, humanity had been working hard to integrate into the wider universe, offering their unique skills and perspectives in exchange for advanced technology and protection. Today marked Nathan's 18th attempt to donate blood at the interspecies blood bank. It had become something of a personal mission for him, despite the repeated rejections. He wasn't normally this persistent, but there was something about continually being told that his blood was incompatible that bothered him deeply. Humans had been allowed to join the Galactic Confederation, yet they were still treated as lesser beings in many ways. This small act of donating blood had become symbolic to Nathan, proof that humans could contribute something valuable to the greater community. "Nathan Brooks, please proceed to screening room 3, announced the automated voice system. Nathan stood, straightening his station-issued gray jumpsuit. He took a deep breath and walked through the sliding doors. Inside, a Terrasian nurse was preparing the screening equipment. Her blue-tinged skin glistened under the clinical lights, and her forearms moved in perfect coordination as she calibrated the machines. The name badge on her uniform read, Nurse Alara. "Please sit," she said without looking up. Her voice had the characteristic melodic quality of all Terraxians, a slight vibration that made their speech sound almost like singing. "I see from your records that this is your 18th attempt to donate blood." "That's right," Nathan said, sitting on the examination chair. "I'm nothing if not persistent." Nurse Alara finally looked at him, her large, pupil-less eyes narrowing slightly. "Persistence without purpose is merely stubbornness, human. Your previous 17 samples have been deemed incompatible with our systems. The likelihood of a different outcome today is statistically negligible." Nathan shrugged. "I've made some lifestyle changes. Different diet, new supplements recommended by the human doctor on station. I thought it might make a difference." The Terrasian made a sound that might have been the equivalent of a sigh. "Very well. Extend your arm." Nathan rolled up his sleeve and offered his arm. The nurse pressed a small device against his skin, and he felt the familiar pinch as it extracted a blood sample. The device hummed softly as it began its analysis. "While we wait for the preliminary results, I must ask the standard questions," Nurse Alara said. "Have you consumed any non-human approved substances in the past 30 cycles?" "No," Nathan replied. It was a familiar routine by now. "Have you been exposed to any radiation beyond the standard background levels of the station?" "No." "Have you engaged in genetic modification or enhancement procedures?" "No." The questioning continued for several minutes, covering everything from Nathan's sleep patterns to his exposure to various alien pheromones. It was the same battery of questions he'd answered 17 times before, and his answers remained unchanged. The blood analysis device beeped, and Nurse Alara turned to examine the results on her screen. Nathan watched her face carefully, hoping to see some sign that this time was different. For a moment, her expression remained neutral as she scrolled through the data. Then, suddenly, her eyes widened, and all 4 of her hands froze in midair. "This cannot be correct," she muttered, tapping rapidly on the screen with her upper right hand. "The machine must be malfunctioning." "What is it?" Nathan asked, leaning forward. The nurse ignored him, instead rushing to a larger console across the room. She inserted the blood sample into a different machine and initiated a new scan. The seconds ticked by as Nathan waited, his curiosity piqued by the nurse's unusual reaction. When the second machine finished its analysis, Nurse Alara stared at the screen in apparent disbelief. Her blue skin seemed to pale slightly, and her hands trembled as she turned to face Nathan. "Impossible!" she exclaimed, her melodic voice rising to an uncharacteristic screech. "What's impossible?" Nathan asked, alarmed now. "Is something wrong with my blood? Am I sick?" The nurse seemed to regain some of her professional composure, though her eyes remained fixed on him with a new intensity. "Your blood sample," she began, then paused as if searching for words. "It contains properties we have never seen before. Properties that, according to our understanding of biology, should not exist." Nathan blinked in confusion. "I don't understand." "Neither do I," admitted the Terrasian. "I must consult with Drs. Alorn immediately. Please remain here." Before Nathan could respond, Nurse Alara had rushed from the room, the door sliding shut behind her with a soft hiss. Left alone, Nathan's mind raced with possibilities. Was there something wrong with him? Had he contracted some strange alien disease? Or was it something else entirely? 5 minutes later, the door slid open again, and Nurse Alara returned, followed by a tall, slender alien with gray skin and elongated limbs. Dr. Alorn, the head of xenobiology at the medical facility, had an expression of intense curiosity on his face. At least, that's how Nathan interpreted the slight furrow of his ridged forehead. "Mr. Brooks," the doctor said, his voice deep and resonant, "I understand you have made multiple attempts to donate blood at our facility." 18, counting today, Nathan confirmed. "All rejected for incompatibility." "Until today," Dr. Alorn said, glancing at a datapad in his long-fingered hand. "Your current sample displays some unusual properties. With your permission, I would like to conduct additional tests." Nathan hesitated. "Am I in danger? Is there something wrong with me?" "Not at all," the doctor assured him. "In fact, quite the opposite. Your blood may possess qualities of significant scientific interest, perhaps even medical value." Nathan considered this for a moment. He had come here hoping to contribute something, to prove that humans weren't just the primitive newcomers many species thought them to be. If his blood truly had some special property, then maybe this was his chance. "All right," he agreed. "What kind of additional tests?" Dr. Alorn's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "First, we must verify these initial findings. Then, if confirmed, we will need to understand the mechanism behind these properties. It may require several hours of your time today, and possibly follow-up visits." "I've got nowhere else to be," Nathan said with a shrug. "My shift at the communications array doesn't start until tomorrow." "Excellent," the doctor replied. "Nurse Alara will prepare the necessary equipment. In the meantime, perhaps you could provide some additional information about your personal history." As Nurse Alara busied herself with preparing various devices and containers, Dr. Alorn sat across from Nathan with his datapad ready. The questions now went far beyond the standard screening protocol, delving into Nathan's family medical history, childhood illnesses, and environmental exposures on Earth. "You mentioned you grew up in a place called Colorado," the doctor asked, carefully pronouncing the unfamiliar word. "Yes, in the Rocky Mountains," Nathan explained. "High altitude, lots of forests, pretty isolated. My parents were park rangers, so we lived in a cabin in the national forest most of the year." Dr. Alorn made notes. "Interesting. And have you ever experienced any unusual medical conditions? Recoveries that seemed faster than normal, perhaps?" Nathan thought about it. "Not really. I mean, I've been pretty healthy most of my life. Broke my arm once when I was 12, but it healed normally." "I see," the doctor murmured, making another note. "And your family? Any unusual longevity or resistance to disease?" "My grandfather lived to be 104, if that counts as unusual. And my mom never seems to get sick, even when everyone else does. But nothing extraordinary." Their conversation continued for nearly half an hour, covering everything from Nathan's vaccination history to his dietary preferences. Throughout, Dr. Alorn maintained a neutral expression, though Nathan could sense a growing excitement beneath the doctor's professional demeanor. Finally, Nurse Alara announced that she was ready to proceed with the additional tests. What followed was a blur of activity as Nathan's blood was subjected to a battery of analyses far more extensive than the routine screening. Samples were placed in various machines, mixed with different reagents, and examined under what looked like advanced microscopes. Throughout the process, Nathan noticed the two aliens exchanging meaningful glances, their expressions growing more animated as each test was completed. Whatever they were finding seemed to confirm their initial discovery. After what seemed like hours, Dr. Zalorn finally set down his instruments and turned to Nathan with an expression of undisguised wonder. "Mr. Brooks," he said solemnly, "it appears that your blood contains a property we have never before encountered in any species across the known galaxy. It has remarkable regenerative capabilities, far beyond anything in our medical database." Nathan stared at him. "Regenerative? Like it heals things?" "In a manner of speaking, yes," the doctor confirmed. "When introduced to damaged cellular structures from various species, your blood appears to accelerate the natural healing process exponentially. The effect is most pronounced with neural tissue, which typically has very limited regenerative capacity in most species." Nathan's mind reeled with the implications. "Are you saying my blood could heal nerve damage, like spinal injuries or brain trauma?" "Potentially," Dr. Zalorn nodded, "though much more research would be needed before any clinical applications could be considered. The mechanism is not yet understood, and there could be limitations or side effects we haven't identified." Nurse Alara, who had been silent during this explanation, finally spoke up. "The question is why this property wasn't detected in your previous 17 donations." Dr. Zalorn turned to her. "I believe I may have a theory about that. Our standard screening protocols focus primarily on compatibility factors, blood type, protein markers, potential allergens, and so forth. They're designed to identify problems, not unexpected benefits. The regenerative property would only have been detected if specifically tested for, which is not part of our routine screening. So every time I came in before," Nathan said slowly, "you were just checking to make sure my blood wouldn't kill anyone, not whether it could help them." "That is an accurate, if somewhat blunt, assessment," the doctor acknowledged. "Blood donation screening prioritizes safety above all else, especially with relatively unknown species like humans." Nathan processed this information, feeling a mix of emotions. Pride that there was something special about human blood, his blood, after all. Frustration that it had taken 18 attempts for anyone to notice. And a growing sense of possibility about what this could mean. "What happens now?" he asked. Dr. Zalorn set his datapad on a nearby surface. "With your permission, I would like to conduct a more comprehensive study of this phenomenon. It would involve additional blood samples, possibly tissue samples, and a full genetic workup. The findings could have significant implications for regenerative medicine across multiple species." Nathan barely hesitated. "If my blood can help people, any people, human or alien, then I'm in. Take whatever samples you need." The doctor's expression softened slightly. "Your eagerness to contribute is commendable, Mr. Brooks. However, there are protocols to be followed, ethical considerations to address. This is not a decision to be made hastily." "I understand," Nathan said, though he was already certain of his choice. "But I still want to help." "Then let us proceed methodically," Dr. Zalorn suggested. "For now, I would like to collect one more sample for immediate analysis and schedule a follow-up appointment to discuss the next steps after I've had time to review the data more thoroughly." Nathan nodded his agreement, and Nurse Alara prepared to take another blood sample. As she worked, Nathan found himself thinking about the implications of this discovery. What might it mean for humanity's place in the galactic community? Would this change how other species viewed them? And more personally, what would it mean for him? Little did he know, the answers to these questions would come sooner than expected, and in ways he could never have anticipated. 2 days later, Nathan was awakened by the insistent beeping of his communication console. Groggily, he rolled out of bed and tapped the receive button. The face of Dr. Zalorn appeared on the screen, looking uncharacteristically agitated. "Mr. Brooks," the doctor said without preamble, "I apologize for the early hour, but we have a situation that requires your immediate attention. Could you come to the medical facility as soon as possible?" Nathan glanced at the time display. It was barely past 5 o'clock in the station's standardized morning cycle. "What's happening? Did you find something else in my blood?" "The situation is complex," Dr. Zalorn replied carefully. "I would prefer to discuss it in person. How quickly can you be here? Give me 15 minutes, Nathan said, already moving to grab his clothes. Thank you. Please come directly to my office rather than the blood bank. Nurse Alara will meet you at the main entrance. The screen went dark before Nathan could ask any more questions. Whatever was happening, it had the normally composed doctor visibly concerned. Nathan dressed quickly, splashed water on his face, and headed out of his quarters. The corridors of New Horizon were relatively empty at this hour, with only maintenance crews and early shift workers making their way through the station. Nathan nodded politely to a group of Venturi engineers he recognized from the Environmental Systems Department, their crystalline bodies catching the light as they moved. When he arrived at the medical facility, Nurse Alara was waiting for him as promised. Her blue skin looked paler than usual, and all four of her hands were clasped together in front of her, a Teresian gesture of anxiety. "Thank you for coming so quickly," she said, leading him through a series of corridors he hadn't seen before. "The director is waiting for us." "Director?" Nathan asked, surprised. "I thought I was meeting with Dr. Zalorn." "Dr. Zalorn will be there as well, but Director Vorex insisted on being present for this discussion." That was concerning. Director Vorex was the overall administrator of New Horizon Station, a senior diplomat from the Arcadian species who rarely involved himself in day-to-day matters. If he was taking an interest in Nathan's blood, the situation must be even more significant than he had realized. Nurse Alara led him to a conference room rather than an office. Inside, Dr. Zalorn was engaged in an intense conversation with a stocky, gray-skinned alien whose elaborate uniform marked him as a high-ranking official. A third figure sat at the table as well, a human woman in her 40s with short blonde hair and the distinctive blue uniform of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. All three looked up as Nathan entered, and the conversation abruptly ceased. "Mr. Brooks," Dr. Zalorn said, gesturing him forward. "Thank you for joining us. Allow me to introduce Director Vorex, Administrator of New Horizon Station, and Ambassador Julia Clark, Earth's diplomatic representative." Nathan nodded respectfully to both figures, his concern growing by the second. "What's going on? Has something happened with my blood samples?" Director Vorex stepped forward, his six-fingered hands clasped behind his back. "Mr. Brooks, please sit down. The situation we face is somewhat delicate." Nathan took a seat across from Ambassador Clark, who offered him a reassuring smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "As you know," Dr. Zalorn began, "we discovered unusual regenerative properties in your blood sample 2 days ago. Following that discovery, I conducted additional tests to verify and better understand these properties. The results were even more remarkable than initially thought," the director continued. "Dr. Zalorn's tests indicate that compounds in your blood can potentially accelerate healing in 17 different species, including several that have historically proven difficult to treat with conventional methods." "That sounds like good news," Nathan said cautiously. Ambassador Clark leaned forward. "It is good news, Nathan. Potentially groundbreaking. The problem is how quickly word has spread." "Word has what?" Nathan blinked in confusion. "I haven't told anyone except my roommate. Nor have we released any official information," Dr. Zalorn assured him. "However, it appears that someone within the medical facility accessed the preliminary test results and shared them with others. By yesterday evening, rumors were circulating throughout the station about a human with miracle blood." Director Vorex's expression darkened. "This morning, we have already received formal requests from 7 different species medical authorities for samples of your blood, as well as numerous unofficial inquiries. There have also been concerning reports of certain private interests expressing a willingness to obtain samples through less official channels." The implications hit Nathan like a physical blow. "Are you saying I'm in danger? That someone might try to take my blood by force?" "We have no specific threats," the director said quickly, "but the possibility cannot be dismissed entirely. The potential medical applications of your blood's properties are significant enough that some might be willing to go to extreme lengths. Which is why we're implementing immediate security measures," Ambassador Clark added. "As of this morning, you've been temporarily reassigned from the communications array to the Earth Embassy, which has higher security protocols." Nathan's head was spinning. Just days ago, he had been an ordinary technician, one of hundreds of humans working on New Horizon to represent Earth in the galactic community. Now, suddenly, he was being treated like a valuable resource that needed protection. "I don't understand," he said finally. "What makes my blood so special? I'm just a normal human. There are over 10 billion of us." Dr. Zalorn exchanged glances with the others before responding. "That is what makes this situation particularly intriguing, Mr. Brooks. According to our research, the regenerative compound in your blood appears to be present in varying degrees in all human samples we've tested since your discovery." "All humans?" Nathan echoed incredulously. "To some extent, yes," the doctor confirmed. "Though your blood shows significantly higher concentrations than the average, possibly due to genetic factors we haven't yet identified." Ambassador Clark leaned forward. "Nathan, do you understand what this means? This isn't just about you. This could fundamentally change humanity's position in the galactic community. We've been seen as technologically backward newcomers until now, with little to offer except manual labor and cultural novelties. This discovery suggests that humans possess a biological attribute that could revolutionize medicine for multiple species." The weight of this revelation settled on Nathan's shoulders. It wasn't just about proving his own worth anymore. It was about his entire species. "What do you need me to do?" he asked quietly. Director Vorex nodded approvingly. "For now, we need you to cooperate with our security protocols while we develop a more comprehensive plan. Ambassador Clark will escort you to the Earth Embassy, where you'll remain until we can ensure your safety elsewhere on the station. And my blood, the research, will continue under controlled conditions," Dr. Zalorn assured him, "with proper protocols and ethical guidelines in place. Your contribution will be recognized, Mr. Brooks, but we must proceed carefully to avoid interspecies complications." Nathan nodded slowly, trying to process everything. "When do we leave for the embassy?" "Immediately," Ambassador Clark said, standing. "A security team is waiting outside. We'll take a non-standard route to avoid drawing attention." As they prepared to leave, Nurse Alara approached Nathan. "I wanted to apologize," she said, her melodic voice subdued. "If I had been more thorough in your previous screenings, perhaps this discovery could have been made earlier, under more controlled circumstances." Nathan shook his head. "You followed your protocols. No one knew what to look for until now." The nurse's pupil-less eyes seemed to soften. "Still, I regret the 18 rejections you endured. Your persistence, it was not mere stubbornness after all." Before Nathan could respond, Ambassador Clark gently took his arm. "We need to go, Nathan. The security team is ready." With a final nod to Dr. Zalorn, Director Vorex, and Nurse Alara, Nathan allowed himself to be escorted from the conference room. As they moved through the medical facility toward a service exit, he couldn't help but feel that his life had changed irreversibly. He had come to New Horizons seeking adventure and a chance to represent humanity among the stars. Now, it seemed, he would be representing them in ways he had never imagined. The Earth Embassy occupied a modest section of New Horizons' diplomatic quarter. Unlike the grandiose, multi-level compounds of older species like the Arcadians or Taraxians, the human facility was functional rather than impressive, a reflection of humanity's recent arrival to the galactic stage. Nathan had visited the embassy a few times before, usually for routine administrative matters or cultural events. But he had never been to the secure residential wing, where Ambassador Clark led him now. The security protocols were noticeably stricter here, with biometric scanners and armed guards at key checkpoints. "These will be your quarters for the time being," the ambassador said, gesturing to a door that slid open at their approach. "It's not luxurious, but it's comfortable and, more importantly, secure." The room was indeed simple but adequate: a bed, a desk with a communication console, a small sitting area, and a private bathroom. Large windows offered a view of the swirling nebula outside the station, though Nathan noticed the transparent material was thicker than standard station windows, likely reinforced. "How long will I be staying here?" he asked, setting down the small bag of personal items a security officer had retrieved from his regular quarters. Ambassador Clark's expression was sympathetic but firm. "That depends on how quickly we can develop a long-term strategy. The situation is evolving rapidly," meaning that in the 6 hours since we discovered the leak, the number of formal requests for access to human blood samples has doubled. We've also received inquiries from 3 planetary governments and the Galactic Confederation's Medical Council. Nathan sat heavily on the edge of the bed. All this because my blood can help heal people? It's not quite that simple, the ambassador said, taking a seat in the room's single armchair. The regenerative properties in human blood represent a significant scientific discovery, yes, but they also represent economic and political leverage in a community where humanity has had very little until now. She leaned forward, her expression serious. Nathan, you need to understand something. When Earth was discovered 15 years ago, most established species viewed humans as a curiosity at best, a potential nuisance at worst. We were granted limited membership in the Confederation largely as a means of keeping us contained and monitored, not because we were seen as equals. This wasn't entirely news to Nathan. Most humans working off-Earth had experienced the condescension of older species, the subtle and not-so-subtle reminders that humans were technological infants compared to civilizations with thousands of years of spacefaring history. The discovery of this compound in human blood changes the equation, Clark continued. Suddenly, we have something uniquely valuable to offer, something that even the most advanced species haven't been able to synthesize or replicate. That gives Earth leverage we've never had before. So I'm what, a bargaining chip now? Nathan asked, unable to keep a note of bitterness from his voice. No, the ambassador said firmly. You're a human being who deserves protection and respect. But the implications of what's in your blood, what's apparently in all human blood to some degree, extend far beyond any individual. We need to handle this discovery carefully, not just for your sake, but for the future of human-alien relations. Nathan nodded slowly, beginning to understand the complexity of the situation. What happens now? For the next few days, you'll remain here while we gather more information and consult with Earth. Dr. Zalorn will continue his research, using both your samples and those voluntarily provided by other humans on the station. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with before making any major decisions. And in the meantime, I just sit here. Ambassador Clark's expression softened slightly. You'll have access to the embassy's secure network, entertainment systems, and limited communication with approved contacts. Security concerns aside, you're not a prisoner, Nathan. You're under protection. After the ambassador left, promising to return later with updates, Nathan found himself alone in the quiet room. He paced for a while, then sat at the desk and accessed the entertainment system, though he found it hard to focus on any of the available content. His mind kept returning to the events of the past few days, from his persistent attempts to donate blood to the shocking discovery, and now this quasi-quarantine. He was startled from his thoughts by a chime from the communication console. A message notification flashed on the screen from a sender identified as Dr. Zalorn, Secure Channel. Nathan activated the console, and the doctor's angular face appeared. Mr. Brooks, I hope I'm not disturbing you. Not at all, Nathan replied. To be honest, I could use the distraction. I understand this situation must be disorienting for you, the doctor acknowledged. I wanted to provide you with some additional information that might help you better understand what we've discovered about your blood, about human blood in general. Nathan leaned forward, eager for anything that might make sense of his new reality. I'm listening. Dr. Zalorn launched into an explanation that, while simplified for Nathan's benefit, was still heavy with medical and biological terminology. The doctor explained that the regenerative compound in human blood appeared to be related to stem cell factors, but with unique properties not seen in any other known species. These properties allowed human blood, when properly processed, to stimulate cellular repair in a wide range of alien physiologies without triggering immune rejection. The most remarkable aspect, Dr. Zalorn continued, is that this compound seems particularly effective with neural tissue, the brain and nervous system, which are notoriously difficult to heal in most species. The potential applications for treating neurological injuries and degenerative conditions are substantial. And you're sure all humans have this in their blood? Nathan asked. It's not just me. Based on our limited sampling so far, yes. All human blood contains the compound, though concentration levels vary significantly between individuals. Your levels are approximately 3.7 times higher than the average of the 23 humans we've tested since your discovery. Nathan frowned. Why would my levels be so much higher? That remains unclear, the doctor admitted. It could be genetic, environmental, or some combination of factors. Your personal history, growing up in a high-altitude, relatively isolated environment, may be relevant, but it's too early to draw conclusions. Further research is needed. They discussed the findings for nearly an hour, with Dr. Zalorn answering Nathan's questions as thoroughly as possible given the preliminary nature of the research. By the end of the conversation, Nathan had a clearer understanding of what made human blood special and why it had caused such a stir throughout the station. As they were about to conclude, Dr. Zalorn's expression became more serious. There is one other matter I wish to discuss with you, Mr. Brooks. It is of a sensitive nature. Nathan felt a twinge of apprehension. What is it? Earlier today, I was approached by a representative of the Venturi Collective. They have a particular interest in the neural regenerative properties of human blood and have made what they term a private proposal regarding your participation in their research. What kind of proposal? The doctor hesitated. They are offering significant compensation, both to you personally and to Earth's government, in exchange for exclusive access to your blood and genetic material for a period of 1 standard year. Nathan stared at the screen in disbelief. They want to buy my blood? Just mine, not from other humans. As I mentioned, your blood contains substantially higher concentrations of the regenerative compound than other human samples we've tested. The Venturi are known for their efficiency. They wish to work with the most potent source available. Did you tell them no? Nathan asked, his voice rising slightly. It was not my place to accept or reject their offer, Dr. Zalorn said carefully. I informed them that any such proposal would need to be directed through proper diplomatic channels. I am telling you this because I believe you have a right to know, and because I suspect they may attempt to contact you directly despite security protocols. Nathan shook his head, anger building inside him. My blood isn't for sale. Not to the Venturi, not to anyone. A commendable position, the doctor said with what might have been approval. I have shared these sentiments with Ambassador Clark, who I believe is of the same mind. However, you should be prepared for the possibility of similar approaches from other quarters. Your discovery has attracted considerable attention throughout the station and beyond. After Dr. Zalorn signed off, promising to keep Nathan updated on his research, Nathan sat in silence for a long time. The reality of his situation was beginning to sink in more deeply. His blood, something he had taken for granted his entire life, had suddenly become one of the most valuable substances on New Horizons Station. And not everyone would be content to wait for official channels and ethical protocols. The next 3 days passed in a blur of briefings, medical tests, and increasing isolation. Nathan was allowed short, escorted visits to the embassy's common areas, but otherwise remained in his quarters for security reasons. Ambassador Clark visited daily, keeping him informed of developments as they occurred. Dr. Zalorn sent regular updates on his research, which was progressing rapidly with the voluntary participation of most humans stationed on New Horizon. On the 4th day, Nathan was awakened by urgent knocking on his door. Ambassador Clark entered before he could fully compose himself, her expression grim. We have a situation, she said without preamble. A Terrasian medical transport arriving at the station was attacked an hour ago. The patients included a child with severe neural trauma who couldn't be treated with conventional methods. Nathan sat up, instantly alert. Attacked by whom? A small private vessel registered to a Venturi corporation. They disabled the transport's engines and attempted to board, but station security responded before they could gain entry. They fled before they could be apprehended. What does this have to do with me? The ambassador's eyes met his directly. The Terrasian child was being brought here specifically for experimental treatment using processed human blood factors, your blood factors, to be precise. Dr. Zalorn had received special clearance to attempt the procedure given the child's critical condition. Nathan felt cold dread settling in his stomach. You think the Venturi were trying to prevent the treatment? To maintain exclusive access to the technology? We can't prove intent, Clark said carefully, but the timing is suspicious, and it fits with the Venturi approach to emerging technologies. They have a history of attempting to control valuable resources through any means necessary. Nathan stood and began to pace the small room. So what happens now? The Terrasian transport will arrive within the hour with enhanced security. The child's condition is deteriorating rapidly. Without treatment, permanent neural damage is almost certain. She paused, her expression softening slightly. Nathan, Dr. Zalorn believes the concentrated factors from your blood represent the child's best chance for recovery. He's requesting your direct participation in the procedure. Of course, Nathan said without hesitation. Whatever he needs. Ambassador Clark nodded, looking relieved though not surprised by his response. There are risks involved. The security situation remains volatile, and the procedure itself is experimental. Dr. Zalorn can explain the medical details when we reach the facility. When do we leave? As soon as you're ready. A security team is standing by. 20 minutes later, Nathan found himself being escorted through the back corridors of the station, surrounded by a mixed team of human and Arcadian security personnel. They moved efficiently, avoiding the main thoroughfares and public areas where they might be observed. When they reached the medical facility, Dr. Zalorn was waiting for them at a secure entrance, his normally composed features showing signs of stress and fatigue. "Thank you for coming," he said to Nathan as they hurried through the corridors. "Time is essential in this case." "Tell me what you need me to do," Nathan replied, matching the doctor's brisk pace. "The procedure is relatively straightforward," Dr. Zalorn explained as they walked. "We will collect a larger sample of your blood than usual, approximately 500 milliliters. It will be immediately processed to isolate and concentrate the regenerative factors. The resulting compound will then be administered directly to the damaged neural tissue using a targeted delivery system." They reached a preparation room adjacent to what appeared to be an operating theater. Through a window, Nathan could see medical staff preparing equipment while others monitored displays showing vital signs. "The patient?" Nathan asked. "Arrived 10 minutes ago," Dr. Zalorn confirmed. "Young female, approximately 8 standard years by human reckoning. Suffered severe neural trauma in an environmental system malfunction on her family's vessel." The doctor hesitated, then added more quietly, "I should inform you that this procedure has never been attempted before. While our laboratory tests show promising results, there are no guarantees of success, and there may be risks we have not anticipated." "I understand," Nathan said. "But we have to try." Dr. Zalorn nodded, then gestured to a medical chair. "Please sit. Nurse Alara will collect the blood sample." The blue-skinned Terrasian nurse approached, her 4 hands moving with practiced efficiency as she prepared the collection equipment. Her expression was solemn as she met Nathan's eyes. "The child is one of my people," she said softly. "Her name is Lyra. On behalf of my species, I thank you for your willingness to help." Nathan nodded, extending his arm as she applied a sterilizing solution to his skin. "I just hope it works." "As do we all," Nurse Alara replied, inserting the collection needle with gentle precision. As his blood flowed into the collection bag, Nathan watched the activity in the operating theater through the window. The patient was barely visible amid the equipment and medical staff, but he caught glimpses of blue-tinged skin similar to Nurse Alara's. Ambassador Clark stood nearby, speaking quietly with a senior security officer. The tension in the room was palpable, everyone aware that they were attempting something unprecedented, with potentially far-reaching consequences regardless of the outcome. When the collection was complete, Nurse Alara quickly sealed the bag of blood and rushed it to an adjacent laboratory where a team of specialists waited to begin the processing. Dr. Zalorn followed, leaving Nathan with the ambassador. "How are you feeling?" Clark asked, handing him a nutrient drink to help replace the lost fluids. "A little lightheaded, but fine," Nathan assured her, sipping the sweet liquid. "How long before we know if it works?" Dr. Zalorn says the initial response should be evident within minutes of administration. Full results may take hours or days to assess. Nathan nodded, his eyes drawn back to the operating theater. "And the security situation?" "Station security has doubled patrols throughout this section. The Venturi Corporation has issued a formal denial of involvement in the transport attack, claiming their vessel was responding to a distress call and was misidentified." "You don't believe them?" The ambassador's expression hardened slightly. Let's just say I've had enough dealings with Venturi representatives to be skeptical of their explanations. Their conversation was interrupted by the return of Dr. Zalorn, who moved with renewed purpose. The processing is complete. We're ready to begin the procedure. Through the window, Nathan watched as the medical team prepared to administer the concentrated factors derived from his blood. A specialized delivery device was positioned above the child's exposed neural tissue, guided by imaging technology that Nathan could barely comprehend. Time seemed to slow as the procedure began. The room fell silent except for the soft beeping of monitoring equipment and the occasional murmured instruction from the lead surgeon. Nathan found himself holding his breath as the first drops of the processed compound were delivered precisely to the damaged areas. For several tense minutes, there was no visible change. The medical staff continued their work, adjusting parameters and checking readings. Dr. Zalorn's expression remained carefully neutral, but Nathan could see the tension in his posture. Then, suddenly, one of the monitors emitted a different tone. Several of the medical staff moved quickly to check the readings, their movements becoming more animated. Dr. Zalorn leaned forward, studying a display with intense concentration. "What's happening?" Nathan asked, unable to interpret the flurry of activity. Before anyone could answer, Nurse Alara emerged from the operating theater, her blue skin flushed with a deeper hue that Nathan recognized as the Teresian equivalent of emotional intensity. "It's working," she announced, all four hands gesturing in excitement. "The neural regeneration has begun. The patterns are stabilizing." A collective sigh of relief swept through the preparation room. Ambassador Clark placed a hand on Nathan's shoulder, squeezing gently in silent acknowledgement of the moment's significance. Dr. Zalorn emerged from the operating theater minutes later, his normally reserved demeanor giving way to unmistakable excitement. "The initial results exceed our most optimistic projections," he reported. "The damaged neural pathways are not merely stabilizing. They're actively regenerating at a rate approximately 17 times faster than anything in our medical records." "Will she recover completely?" Nathan asked. "It is too early to make such a definitive prognosis," the doctor cautioned. "But the indicators suggest a far more complete recovery than would have been possible with conventional treatments. If this trajectory continues, young Lyra may regain most, if not all, of her neural function." The news spread quickly throughout the medical facility, despite efforts to maintain confidentiality. Within hours, the successful procedure was common knowledge across New Horizons Station. By the following day, reports had reached neighboring systems, carried by departing vessels and official communications channels. Nathan remained under security protection at the Earth Embassy, but the atmosphere had changed noticeably. What had begun as a precautionary measure now felt more like a celebration of possibility. Ambassador Clark reported that requests for diplomatic discussions regarding human blood factors had increased exponentially, but with a different tone than before. "They're not just demanding access now," she explained during her daily briefing. "They're offering partnerships, technology exchanges, educational opportunities. Earth's status in the diplomatic community is evolving before our eyes." 5 days after the procedure, Nathan received a special visitor. With Ambassador Clark's approval, Lyra, the young Teresian patient, was brought to the embassy along with her parents and medical attendants, including Nurse Alara. The child was still weak, supported by a mobility aid, but her neural functions had improved dramatically. She could speak, move with increasing coordination, and showed no signs of the permanent damage that had once seemed inevitable. Her parents approached Nathan with a formal bow, a significant gesture from Taraxians to a human. "We have no words adequate to express our gratitude," Lyra's father said, his melodic voice thick with emotion. "You have given our daughter back her future." Lyra herself stepped forward, somewhat shy but determined. She extended a small blue hand toward Nathan, holding a delicately crafted crystal figurine, a traditional Teresian symbol of life debt. "Thank you for your blood," she said simply, her large eyes fixed on his face with solemn intensity. Nathan knelt to accept the gift, finding himself unexpectedly moved by the gesture. "I'm just glad it helped," he replied, careful to use the proper Teresian phrasing that Nurse Alara had taught him earlier. The visit was brief. as Lyra still needed rest for her ongoing recovery. As they prepared to leave, Nurse Alara lingered behind for a moment. Dr. Zalorn asked me to inform you that the full research findings will be presented to the Galactic Confederation's Medical Council next week, she said. Your presence has been requested, if you are willing. Nathan glanced at Ambassador Clark, who nodded encouragingly. Of course, he agreed. Whatever helps. After the Taraxians departed, Clark explained the significance of the upcoming presentation. This isn't just a medical briefing, she said. It's effectively Earth's debut as a meaningful contributor to galactic science. The timing couldn't be better. The Confederation's annual membership review is only 3 months away. Membership review? Where they evaluate the status of member species and consider adjustments to participation levels, resource allocations, technology sharing permissions, that sort of thing. Until now, Earth has been classified as a provisional associate member, basically the lowest tier possible. But this discovery could change that significantly. Nathan shook his head in wonder. All because I was stubborn enough to try donating blood 18 times. The ambassador smiled. Persistence is an undervalued trait, especially in diplomatic circles. Speaking of which, there's something else you should know. The Venturi Corporation that was implicated in the transport attack has been sanctioned by their own government. Apparently, even the Venturi Collective found their actions excessively aggressive. That's something, at least, Nathan said. Though I doubt they're the only ones who would go to extreme lengths for this technology. Which is why security remains a priority, Clark agreed. But the successful treatment of Lyra has changed the equation somewhat. It's demonstrated that cooperation yields better results than coercion. Most species recognize that. The week leading up to the Medical Council presentation was filled with preparation. Nathan worked closely with Dr. Zalorn and Ambassador Clark to understand the scientific and diplomatic aspects of what would be presented. He was no expert in either field, but as the human whose blood had sparked this discovery, his perspective was considered valuable. The day before the presentation, Nathan received another unexpected visitor. Director Vorex, the station administrator who had been involved in the initial security discussions, arrived at the embassy with minimal fanfare. Mr. Brooks, the Arcadian said formally, I wish to speak with you privately before tomorrow's proceedings. Nathan invited him to sit in the small meeting room that had become his default space for receiving visitors. Is there a problem with the presentation? Not at all, Vorex assured him. The arrangements are proceeding as planned. My visit concerns a different matter entirely. The director paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. Throughout my career as a diplomat and administrator, I have observed many first contact scenarios and integration processes as new species join the galactic community. Humans have presented unique challenges in this regard. Nathan tensed slightly, unsure where this conversation was heading. Your species possesses a contradictory nature that many of us have found difficult to categorize, Vorex continued. On one hand, humans are technologically primitive by galactic standards, with barely a century of space exploration. Yet you display an adaptability and innovative thinking that even species with millennia of advancement sometimes lack. We're works in progress, Nathan offered with a slight shrug. Indeed, the director nodded. Which is why the discovery of these regenerative properties in human blood is so fascinating, not merely for their medical applications, but for what they reveal about your species' evolutionary path. Nathan leaned forward, curious despite himself. What do you mean? Dr. Zalorn's research suggests that these blood properties developed as an adaptive response to Earth's unique environmental conditions, particularly the high levels of environmental toxins, radiation, and pathogens that humans have been exposed to throughout your evolution. Your body's adapted to heal efficiently from damage that would be fatal to many other species. The director's expression shifted to something Nathan couldn't quite interpret. What you perceive as normal, your ability to recover from injuries, fight off infections, adapt to varying conditions, is actually quite extraordinary by galactic standards. Most species evolved in more stable, protected environments. Humans, it seems, evolved through adversity. Nathan considered this perspective, which he had never considered before. Earth's environment, with its natural disasters, climate extremes, and abundant pathogens, had always just been home to him. The idea that it had shaped humans into something unique in the galaxy was both humbling and empowering. I tell you this, Vorex continued, because I believe tomorrow's presentation marks a significant turning point for human integration into the galactic community. You will no longer be viewed as merely the newcomers, the less advanced species in need of guidance. You bring something of genuine value, something that emerged from the very challenges that made your evolution different from ours. He rose to leave, having said what he came to say. It has been the pattern throughout galactic history that each species contributes something unique to our collective knowledge and capabilities. We had wondered what humanity's contribution would be. Now we begin to see it. After the director departed, Nathan sat alone with his thoughts. The conversation had given him a new perspective on humanity's place in the universe, not as latecomers trying to catch up, but as a species with a unique evolutionary history that had produced something valuable and previously unknown in the galaxy. The next day, Nathan found himself standing before the Galactic Confederation's Medical Council, a diverse assembly of the 17-member species' leading medical authorities. The formal chamber, with its tiered seating and advanced display systems, was intimidating, but Nathan focused on the importance of what they were there to discuss rather than his own nervousness. Dr. Zalorn presented the scientific findings with characteristic precision, detailing the unique properties of human blood, the successful treatment of Lyra, and the potential applications for numerous medical conditions across multiple species. Ambassador Clark followed with a diplomatic perspective, emphasizing Earth's commitment to ethical research and equitable access to any treatments developed from this discovery. When it was Nathan's turn to speak, he kept his remarks brief and personal. He described his persistence in trying to donate blood, his initial shock at the discovery, and his hope that this medical breakthrough would benefit all species, not just humans or a select few. "I'm just a communications technician," he concluded. "I don't fully understand the science or the politics involved here. But I do understand that we all want the same things: health, safety, a chance to contribute something meaningful. If human blood can help provide those things to others, then that's what matters." The council's response was overwhelmingly positive. Questions focused primarily on research protocols, distribution systems, and ethical guidelines rather than attempts to secure exclusive access or control. The atmosphere was one of scientific curiosity and collaborative possibility, which Ambassador Clark later described as a diplomatic breakthrough in itself. Following the presentation, a formal reception was held in one of New Horizons' ceremonial chambers. Representatives from all 17 species mingled, discussing the implications of the discovery in smaller groups. Nathan found himself the center of attention, approached by numerous officials eager to express their interest and support. During a brief lull in the conversations, he noticed Nurse Alara standing near one of the large viewports, looking out at the nebula beyond the station. He made his way over to her, grateful for a familiar face amid the crowd of dignitaries. "Quite a change from rejecting my blood donations 18 times, he said lightly as he joined her. The Terrasian turned to him, her large eyes reflecting the nebula's swirling colors. "Indeed, I find myself reflecting on the irony. For 17 attempts, I followed protocols designed to protect patients from potentially harmful donations. On the 18th, I discovered something that could help countless patients across the galaxy." "You didn't do anything wrong," Nathan assured her. "No one knew what to look for before." "Perhaps," she conceded, "but it is a reminder that what we perceive as impossible may simply be what we have not yet discovered." "Impossible" was what I exclaimed when I saw your results. Yet here we are, celebrating that very impossibility. Nathan smiled at the memory of her shocked reaction. "I suppose that's how progress works. Someone keeps trying until the impossible becomes possible." "A very human perspective," Nurse Alara noted, her melodic voice carrying a note of newfound respect, "and one that the galaxy may benefit from embracing more fully." Their conversation was interrupted by Ambassador Clark, who approached with evident excitement. "Nathan, there you are? I've just received word from Earth. In light of recent developments, the Diplomatic Corps is establishing a specialized medical exchange program. They're offering you a position as the program's first liaison, if you're interested." Nathan blinked in surprise. "Me? But I'm not a doctor or a diplomat." "No, the ambassador agreed. But you are the human whose persistence led to this discovery, and whose blood has proven especially potent. Your personal experience makes you uniquely qualified to represent human interests in this field while working with alien medical authorities. He considered the offer, looking around at the diverse gathering of species discussing a future that seemed brighter and more collaborative than before. His simple desire to contribute, to prove that humans had something valuable to offer, had led to something far greater than he could have imagined. "I'd be honored," he said finally. In the days that followed, as news of the discovery spread throughout the galactic community, Nathan found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. 18 attempts to donate blood, 17 rejections before the breakthrough. It was a reminder that persistence often preceded progress, that what seemed impossible one day could become reality the next. As he prepared for his new role, he kept the crystal figurine given to him by young Lyra on his desk, a symbol not just of one child healed, but of a future where human blood, once rejected as incompatible, now represented one of humanity's most valuable contributions to the galactic community. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.